Hello, welcome back to Mr. Weedle Maths. We are nearly done with this SURDS topic. On to the big one, rationalisation, okay? Or to rationalise the denominator. When we have a square root on the bottom and we can't do any dividing, so on the bottom of the fraction, this is an irrational number. We do not like that in maths. So what we do is something called rationalising. Now, whenever you've got one surd on the bottom, one term, as we like to say, on the bottom of your fraction, you can get rid of it very easily by multiplying by the square root that's already there. But if you know your fractions well, what you do to the bottom, you must do to the top of the fraction. What you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator, and that keeps the fraction equal, okay, or equivalent. So we multiply the top, that's really easy. 1 multiplied by root 11 becomes a root 11, and then root 11 multiplied by root 11 becomes a normal integer, which is just 11, okay? It's a lovely, nice skill. So what we're going to do a few more practice ones to get you into the flow of this, okay? We want to get rid of the square root on the denominator, especially if we can't do division. So the next one, I've got 3 divided by the square root of 2. Right, I can't do any division there. I absolutely want to get rid of this irrational number. So I'm going to multiply by the square root of 2, multiplied by the square root of 2, top and bottom. So on the bottom, we are going to get the value of 2. We've got rid of our surd, lovely. And then over here, we're going to have 3 root 2. And we're done, okay? We've got rid of the surd. We can't simplify that. We are done. On to the next one. Okay, and the next one tells us I have 10 divided by 3 root 5. Okay, this one's a slightly interesting one because the only thing we want to get rid of here is the root 5. I don't need to multiply by the 3 as well. You can do, but it's just going to mean you've got to do more simplifying later. All right, so I'm only going to multiply by the surd to get rid of it. So I multiply by the square root of 5. And what I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. So now I have got 10 root 5, and then root 5 times root 5 is normal 5, but that is being multiplied by a 3. So we got 3 times 5 gives me 15. Now what you've got to think is, can you make this nicer? Well, if the fraction was just, if I come over here, 10 over 15, well, we could simplify that down, and we could do the same thing here, okay? We can simplify that down to become, that would be divided by 5, so I would have 2 root 5 over 3. So that simplifies quite nicely, okay? On to the next one. Okay, on this one, we are going to have 2 things on the numerator. So I've got 1 take away root 2, and then 5 root 2 on the denominator. All right, so we do the same as before. We identify what we need to multiply by. Well, here there's only 1 square root, so I multiply by that. So I've got times by the square root of 2, and then I've got to times by the square root of 2. Now, what's going to be slightly different on this one is I'm going to make sure I put a bracket around the 2 things on the top. Now, that's going to remind me I need to multiply both things by the square root of 2. Not just the square root of 2, not just the 1, both things. All right, so the numerator is going to look like I've got a root 2, take away root 2 multiplied by root 2 is a normal 2. And then on the denominator, we've got root 2 multiplied by root 2, which is a normal 2. And then we're multiplying that by 5. So we get 2 times 5 is 10. Now, it's very tempting to think we can simplify this, but we cannot divide everything on the numerator by 2. We can't do it. This is a root 2. You can't divide that by 2. You can't simplify that. So we can't simplify it. So you would just leave it like this. If you doubt me, check on your calculator. Right, we're going to do one more to finish off. All right, so last one we're going to do is 3 root 12 divided by 2 root 7. Now here, hopefully some of you might spot, oh, we can simplify root 12, which absolutely you can do. But for the sake of speed, I'm not going to do that. I am going to multiply by the root 7 straight away. And I'm going to do something slightly different on this one. Okay, but bear with me. On the denominator, we're going to sort that out first. That is 2 multiplied by, well, that becomes a normal 7, so that is 14. Now, on the numerator, I'm going to break everything apart. So I have a 3 multiplied by, let's break this 12 into the square root of 4, so my square number, and the square root of 3. And then I have that square root of 7 on the end. Now I'm going to slowly simplify this, okay? So the square root of or the square root of 4 is a 2. So we've got 3 multiplied by 2. And then we've got the square root of 3 and the square root of 7. And the 14 on the denominator, okay? Now this is just going to become a 6. And then there's no more square numbers and there's nothing on the denominator. So we can't really do anything with that. So we're going to times that back up to become the square root of 21. And then we've got 14 here. We can do one last thing with this fraction to simplify it. If I covered this up and the question was 6 over 14, you would tell me that would simplify to be 3 over 7. And we're going to do the same thing here. So it becomes a 3 on the numerator. The square root of 21 stays a square root. And then we've got a 7 on the denominator. Right. Go find some questions now. Go practice this rationalising of one term. Find some questions. Give it a go. On to the next one. Bye.